Welcome, everybody, to the next edition of the Stay on Course podcast. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Dre Baldwin. And he is an entrepreneur, author of 43 books, speaker, and creator of the Work on Your Game philosophy. Dre has built his career around helping professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders develop the discipline, confidence, and mental toughness needed to perform at a high level consistently. Through his books, coaching, and content, he teaches people how to execute under pressure and succeed even when they don't feel motivated. And today we're going to be talking about what separates professionals from amateurs and how to stay on course when the work gets hard. We're going to talk about the third day and Dre Baldwin's ingredients for success for consistent execution, even when motivation appears. Welcome, Dre, to the Stay on Course podcast.
Julie, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for joining me. Before we get started, I always ask my guests, what is your favorite food?
Favorite food, if I think about what I eat most often, bananas.
Bananas.
Yeah. I actually got a bunch of them on the table right here on my desk. I got them on a plate, but I mean, they're here.
Oh, wow. It sounds like healthy. It's like a healthy thing.
Yeah. If we talk about things that are unhealthy, let me see. I've cut back significantly on the junk. I like eating candy. I don't know if that counts as food. Does that count as food?
I guess it can.
Yeah, I don't eat candy that much anymore. I had some arugula that I got from Whole Foods yesterday. So I get a few of those. Sticky buns I like. The ones with the raisins I like the most. Glazed donuts. There's all the junk food that I like. I don't eat it that often, but as far as regular food, bananas, if we're talking something like a meal-based food, let me see, what do I like the most? Probably something chicken-based, something grilled when it comes to chicken. It's easy to eat, easy to consume, easy to cook.
All right, here we are. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Well, today we're going to talk about the third day, and you've written so many books. Tell us a little bit about, this journey of book writing. Tell us all about it.
Sure. So I was always a writer. I always liked writing, even going back to, let's say, middle school English class when we get writing assignments. And the first thing I did online to actually get myself out there was I was blogging in 2005. That's the first thing I ever put besides, AOL Instant Messenger, if you remember that. And then you had MySpace, and there was a site called Black Planet. These were the precursors to social media.
Yeah.
But the first thing I put out that it was just my own platform, I could say anything, was a blog. I started blogging in 2005, and then I got on YouTube a year later. The blog never took off. I didn't pick up a bunch of fans from doing it, but on YouTube I did. But I was always writing. And then when I started playing, my background's in basketball. We'll probably talk about that. So I'm playing basketball overseas, and I would write little articles or blog posts on Facebook as my status update for my friends from college and back home to know what I was doing, because I'm traveling around the world playing ball, and I would just talk about my experiences. So people like my style of writing and being able to spell things out and paint the picture through words. Then I just kept blogging 2005 to about 2010. That's when I found out about self-publishing. That's when it became a thing. Amazon allows you to publish your own stuff. So I wrote my first book in 2010, and that was for an audience of, at that time, just basketball players. They were learning from me on YouTube, and they weren't asking me to write anything, but because I liked to write and they wanted to know my background, I just wrote a book talking about my background as a basketball player. So that was my first book that came out in 2010, put it out for free. And then over the years, I was talking about mindset to the athletes. So I started writing books on mindset. Then I wrote books on playing overseas. Then I wrote books on communication skills and on leadership. Then I started writing things about business. Then I niched down into different sub areas of all of those categories. And that's how I ended up at 43.
43 is a lot. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. All right. But today we're talking about the third day, and that's one of your books, right?
Yes.
Okay. I need to understand. Tell us what the third day is.
Sure. So that also came from sports. That was about 10 years later. It's about 2014. Now, I used to go to the same gym in Miami that every day I would record my videos in this gym. So if you saw the inside of it, if you watch me on YouTube, you would see it and say, hey, that's Dre Baldwin's gym. That's the gym he's always in. And I would always be in a gym by myself, because if you're playing basketball, you can see maybe one basket on video, but you can hear the other balls bouncing. but there would only be one basketball bouncing mine. So players would always ask, Dre, how do you always have this gym to yourself? Because that's not a normal thing in basketball, because basketball is very popular. There's a bunch of people in the gym. How do you get the gym to yourself? Do you own the gym? Is it attached to your house? Do you rent it out? What is it? So I explained to them the concept of the third day, which is the first day that people can do something that they say they want to do. Go to the gym, start a podcast, launch a course, write a book, whatever. Everybody's all excited and everybody's there. Second day, and again, second day doesn't have to be 2 days in a row, but metaphorically, the second day, still got a lot of people there, but maybe not quite as many as the first day. And by the third day, you find out who's serious. And what I was explaining to them through the video and the concept of the third day is that the reason that that gym is almost always empty, was almost always empty, is because I just show up more frequently than everybody else. Every now and then there'd be a straggler who would be in there at the same time as me, but if you just watch my videos all the time, most of the time it would just be me because I just showed up more consistently than everybody else. So what the third day is about, Julie, to answer your question, is it's the moment when you realize that the thing that you signed up for, you decided to do, is not all fun and games. It's not one big party. There's some actual work involved, and you're not always going to feel like doing it. The third day is not the moment that you realize it. It's the decision that you make when you realize it. What are you going to do now that you know that this is going to take some actual grunt work? Are you willing to do it or are you not? And that principle applies not only in sports, but also in all other aspects of life.
The third day. Now I understand it. It's such a good way to describe it. It's like the messy middle. It's the time where all the motivation is gone. You know, I'm working with somebody right now, which is like an accountability partner, and we're walking every morning, well, like 4 days a week.
Yes, exactly.
4 days a week, we're taking walks, and we're getting up at 6:45, and we're doing like 40 minutes. And every day I've been getting up and like complaining about it. I don't really want to do this, but we realized like just like a week ago that it's hard now. Now it's hard. It's hard to keep it going. So we're talking about today how to keep it going when the motivation disappears. Tell us where are we starting this conversation today? What ingredient do you want to tap into first?
Well, if we're talking about going into that third day concept, then we have to start at structure, because structure is what leads to discipline, or if depending on how high of a level you want to go, we can start at principle. This principle creates structure, structure leads to discipline.
All right, let's start there. Let's start at principle.
So principle, not meaning the principal at school, but principle with an E on the end. And the principle is about the unbreaking standards that suffer no exceptions and no violations that you must absolutely live by at all times. Those are the principles. And once those are set in stone, they are set in stone. Because they're set in stone, every decision that you make is based on adhering to the principle.
But we're human. How do we keep that? How do we hold the principle? That's really, I like that. But like, I'm just wondering, how do I stick to that principle?
Well, principles are identity based, Julie. So the principles are about who you see yourself as when you look in the mirror. So when you see something, you see yourself as a certain type of person, then you don't have to think about how you stick to it because it's who you are. The challenge many people have is that they try to operate by what I call principles. They are really talking about preferences, what they wish they would be, or what they hope to be, or what maybe someone has assigned to them, or they have decided to try to assign to themselves because they heard it from some outside source. But until or unless it is internalized, you're not going to live up to a principle. Because again, principles suffer no exceptions. A principle is, this is who I am as a person, so nothing less is acceptable. So, for example, if I'm a person who says I show up every day and do the job unless I am physically incapable of getting out of the bed, then I'm showing up every day. The question of, am I going to show up because it's raining, is not a question. Am I going to show up because my back hurts, or because I had a bad day yesterday, or because I didn't sleep enough the previous night, or because I'm not even looking forward to what I have to do when I show up? Those are not questions when the identity says I show up every single day and do the job. So the key here is who you see yourself as in the mirror. When you get that nailed down, then the actions become a lot easier. That's where we get to the structure and the discipline. Yeah. Those are the parts that most people tend to focus on. Those are the end products, though. The beginning product is who you see yourself as in the mirror, the identity level. Most people don't focus on this. And it's not because people can't do it. It's because people can't. Not too many people are pretty good at explaining it. Not a lot of people can absorb it, especially when it's explained to them poorly. And even when they understand it, they don't know how to begin. So that's the reason why most people don't do it. They do it backwards and then they get it wrong.
Yeah. It's creating the identity around the success that you want to embody. Is that sort of like what you're saying?
Yes, it's creating the identity around the type of person that you want to be. And that type of person automatically creates the actions that lead to the success.
Mm, this is really good. Very interesting. I'm listening to you and I want to embody that thing, but there's always that little bit of that wiggle room that everybody wants to have. Like, what
Right.
if I don't feel good? What if something hurts and I'm just like, or if it's raining. The other day it was raining
Right.
and I freaking went and got my umbrella. I
There
went
you
for my
go.
walk anyway in the rain. And I'm
Exactly.
wondering, is people are going to think I'm crazy? I'm out here in the rain with my umbrella, and the road is like a little slippery too.
Mhm.
So I didn't take the walk that I would have normally took, but I still went out.
Right. And that's what you're supposed to do by sticking to the process. That's you following the structure that leads to the behavior that looks like what most people call discipline. The behavior is discipline. It's not you that's discipline, it's the behavior that's discipline. Because slowly but surely you're building inside of you the identity that I'm going to do this because I committed to doing it. That
Yeah.
should be a good enough reason for most human beings, but often it's not.
Well, I mean, it really takes. I did notice that after a certain period of time that I was doing this, that it was like, okay, now my body is actually wanting to go for the walk.
Exactly. That's what happens. What happens is when you get something, the process for achieving anything in life is be, do, have in that order. Who you're being, what you're doing, and then what you have. And the way you figure this out is we actually do it backwards. You think about what you want. What's the goal? Goal, somebody says, I'm going to make more money. Okay, great. Now, what I need to do to make more money? There are certain actions you have to take. I need to raise my prices. I need to talk to more people. I need to do more marketing. I need to run more ads, whatever it is you need to do. Now, what type of person do you need to be in order to do those things? Because if you were already that type of person, you would already be doing the things. So something internally, again, identity level, something internally needs to change first before the actions will change permanently, and that will lead to the outcomes. The mistake most people make is that they focus on at the beginning just the actions. For you, it's I'm assuming you're walking for your health. Is that why you're doing the walking? Okay. So the end game is you want to improve your health. How are you going to do it? You chose the vehicle of I'm going to take a walk. That's the doing. And most people start there and then they say, okay, I'm going to do the stuff. Did I get the result yet? No, let me just keep doing the stuff. And they just go back and forth between these two. The challenge with that is as soon as the doing is challenged or it becomes difficult to do or something gets in the way of you doing the thing you said you're going to do, because you don't have the identity level locked in yet, it's very easy to get knocked off your square of the thing that you're doing, such as it's raining, such as my feet hurt or my back hurts or I have a headache or I didn't sleep enough last night. When the identity is in place, and those things are irrelevant. When the identity is not in place, then they come into question. So based on what you said there, Joey, it's still coming into question a little bit, but you overcame it. The challenge is, and this is what sounds like happened to you the other day. You can tell me. It sounds like you used a little bit of willpower to overcome the fact that it was raining outside. When something is baked in on the identity level, willpower is also irrelevant because you don't have to force yourself to do anything. Your identity has already moved you in that direction.
Interesting. Yeah, but I do notice like it's starting to get like hard in my mind, sometimes, well, at least on the fourth day, sometimes on the third day, like if I'm doing 3 days in a row, I feel
Mm-hmm.
my body feels it a little bit, and I don't want to get out of
Right.
bed.
Yes.
So what's next? How else can we help ourselves stay on course like that when it gets hard?
Well, those days when you've walked 3 days in a row and that fourth day you're starting to feel it, what do you do?
Sometimes I take a break and I take Thursday off and then I do it on Friday. Sometimes I'll just go and take in a leave. I'm
And
not
then,
that I'm an older person. I'm not like that young here.
yeah.
So like I do feel like arthritis in my body, but I
Mm-hmm.
think, I have systems here at the house to help me. I have like a whole system that I've created to have my workout clothes ready so that as soon as I wake up, I can get dressed.
Great. So then my question is, what is the commitment? Is the commitment every day? Is it certain days of the week? So that day that you don't feel like it, is that a day you're supposed to be walking or not?
Oh, well, right. Sometime, okay, so like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday is like the plan. I
Okay.
take Thursday off because I have something else I do on Thursday morning. But
Right.
yeah, no, if I'm taking a day off, it's probably because I'm not feeling well.
On a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or
Probably,
Friday.
and it's probably on a Wednesday because I've already walked 2 days in a row. It will be the third day.
So when you say not feeling well, what do you mean?
Like I'm tired, like my body hurts, like I get out of bed at 6:45. I'm like, "Oh, I can sleep another half hour."
Uh, According to what we do over here, that's not acceptable. So today's Tuesday. I don't know when this is coming out, but tomorrow morning you're supposed to walk, right?
Yep.
Okay. How do you feel right now?
I'm okay. I'm gonna do it anyway. I
Okay.
have been doing it anyway,
Hmm.
but I'm not doing it with this whole excitement. I'm getting up and I'm like, I know I have to do this.
That's right. And I got up this morning. I ran outside. I wasn't excited. It's hot. You're in South Florida, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it was like 78 degrees this morning, which doesn't sound too hot, but at 4 or 5 in the morning, 78 degrees and humidity, you know how it is here. It's not pleasant weather to run in, to say the least. I wasn't excited about it. There's nobody watching me. There's no fans. There's no cameras. No Instagram. But I still had to do what I had to do because my identity says I get out there and I do it. And that's the very reason why I do it. And these are the days, those third days are the days when you solidify the identity because there is no other reason to do it other than this is what I've committed to doing as a person. That's when it really bakes in.
Yeah. It's interesting that
Yes.
we're talking because this is at the identity level. I always talk to people about the purpose level, especially when
Mhm.
it comes to speaking and things like that. But I haven't really thought about the identity level as it relates to my health and wellness. I haven't really thought about this. I think that there's a lot of people listening that probably haven't thought about this either. I like this.
Right. And when you don't think about something on the identity level, usually at some point, sometimes sooner, sometimes later, you run into calamities and problems in that aspect of your life because you never got really focused on it on the identity level. And eventually, what happens is scientific law of entropy, which states that anything that does not have standards or parameters keeping it contained eventually moves to increased levels of chaos and disorder. That's a scientific law. So it's not a theory that I made up. In other words, if you don't have a process for keeping something in line, it automatically gets out of line.
Mm. So every time I ask you the question about how do we keep going on the third day where it
Hmm.
feels hard, which is my Wednesday, that's the third
Hmm.
day. It literally is the third day.
That's right.
And that's really what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the identity that, okay, you don't feel like it. Fine, registered, heard that you don't feel like it. Okay, do what you committed to doing anyway. The question is not how you feel. The question is, what did you commit to?
That's the question. So, what are some tips and tricks to like help people fully identify with their identity?
Yes, that's a great question. It's really thinking about that end game. What is it that you want to have, and what do you care about achieving, having, accomplishing, finishing, completing? What do you care about enough that you are willing to deal with discomfort in order to accomplish it?
Mm,
Because if the things that you want, you only want to the level at which it is comfortable and easy and convenient to get, eventually, we have enough life experience here. I'm assuming the show is targeted towards adults. So if you're over the age of 18, you have enough life experience to know that if you want something of significance, you're going to have to deal with some discomfort in order to accomplish it, whether that's in business, relationships, health, money, anything else. You're going to have to deal with some things that are not fun in order to get it. Most
yeah.
people understand that. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to deal with not fun things in order to achieve outcome X, whatever that outcome happens to be? And if the answer is no, that's okay. Just accept that the scientific law of entropy will come find that aspect of your life at some point, and you're going to have to deal with that. So either way, the difficulty is coming. It's just a matter of, do you want to deal with it when the universe forces it upon you, or are you going to take the initiative?
Oh my gosh. This whole topic is so good. When it comes to my business, I'm all in. I will
Mhm.
work all day and all night. I'll sit here until 10 o'clock at night every night, wake up at 8
Mhm.
in the morning. And I'm very disciplined here at my job, very disciplined. I just picked up this health habit. Okay. So like I just picked this up in
Right.
March. I was, in throughout my life, I've been active and I've done things, but I've never really enjoyed or wanted to exercise. Like I would be the person that went to the gym and hated it. I was the one that hated this. And then, I'm realizing, as I get older, this is not working out for me. This what I've been doing. So
Right.
this next level, this part about exercising, it's the part I don't want to do. So that
Right.
is the harder part. I want to do my business. I want to do the things that I'm doing. That's fun for me. It's doing the things that are not fun that you
Mhm.
have to put in that relies so much on that identity piece.
Why did you decide in March? I don't know when it's coming out, so it's been about 90 days, right? So why did you decide in March to do something about your health? Why do you care?
Well, I was getting fat, to be honest. I'm
Okay.
getting
Why does that
older.
matter?
Well, because I was getting uncomfortable. I was getting
Okay.
uncomfortable. And I
What
was,
what
what?
about it? Okay, getting older happens every day. And okay, you said you were getting fat. What do you mean by that though?
I
It
was
didn't happen
gaining weight.
overnight. Yeah, it
No, it
doesn't happen
didn't.
overnight though. So
It
why did
didn't
you start
happen.
caring in March? That's what I'm asking.
I went to a sneaker store and I bought a pair of sneakers that I felt like I could walk in. They were comfortable because I was
Mhm.
having like pain in my knees. And I'm like, wait a minute, I can use these sneakers and I could go for a walk. And then I had a friend. I have a friend. I don't know if you know her, Tiffany Jones. She climbed Mount Kilimanjaro a few years ago and she has all these stories about you can't say someday forever. So she helped motivate me and she's been my accountability partner. So every day, since March 24th, we've been on the phone together at 6:45 in the morning or
Mhm.
7 and we're walking 45 minutes together. So I think it was like a bunch of different things that happened that aligned it to help me. Like I had to create the system to support me in doing the thing that I didn't like to do.
Right. And one of the word that you used there, you said Tiffany helped motivate you she motivates you to do what? To get started, to keep going? What part of it?
To keep going, really, to keep going. Because I don't think if it wasn't for her waiting for me to call her every day, that
Mhm.
I would be getting out of the bed.
Right. So she's representing some form of consequence for you because if you know that she's waiting on that call and you don't call and you feel like you're letting her down.
Hmm.
So you are going to show up for that and it provides some level of motivation. At some point, however, in this process, Julie, motivation must hand the job over to discipline because motivation is fickle. Motivation is not reliable. You cannot depend on motivation because motivation doesn't always show up. At some point, you may get used to, you may normalize your relationship with Tiffany to where you don't feel bad about letting her down and missing that call. So the discipline has to take over. You can still talk to her, but the discipline has to take over because discipline is consistent, it's reliable, and it does not depend on emotion. Motivation is an emotion, it's an energy. Discipline is the result of a process. Processes don't have feelings, right? They are inanimate objects, so to speak. Motivation is it has feelings, it has energy, and the same thing that motivated you last week may not motivate you next week, last year, this year, respectively. So you want to make sure you pass that job off from motivation because you can't build a career or anything that lasts on motivation alone.
Interesting. The discipline takes over.
That's right.
Wow. And then I guess you're building a habit as well. So all of this becomes easier as you do it over and over again. I've noticed that
Mm-hmm.
this is becoming easier. And to the point where, oh my gosh, I sometimes I feel like, oh wow, I didn't walk today. This isn't good. This doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because habit is you are what you repeatedly do. Aristotle said that. So whatever you consistently do is who you are. That's how people judge you by what they see you consistently doing. And you do anything consistently enough, it becomes not only your reputation, but it becomes your character. And your character becomes your virtue. That's what your life becomes, whatever you consistently do. And eventually you start to self-identify with your own consistent behaviors. That's the identity right there. I do this because that's what you're literally doing. This is the type of person that I am, or this is the type of person that I'm not. Whatever you consistently do, you start to see yourself as that person, and nothing from the outside, what we call externalities, can throw you off of that square or push you off of that square because you've driven the grooves in so deep in your subconscious mind that you can't unlearn that. Now, if you do this with a child up to the age of 8, anything you teach them up to about that age, it's been shown scientifically, it's going to be ingrained in them for the rest of their lives. Now, if you're past the age of 8, which most of us are, it takes a little bit more work, but it can still be done.
Mm. It's so interesting. The other thing that I did recently that seemed I needed the third day principle for was leaving my corporate job and starting my own business.
Mm.
That was definitely another one of these moments where I had to like check my identity because my identity was still in the old world. It was still in the corporate world, and they have different principles they run by.
Right. And was this a cold turkey thing, or was it you slowly
I
weaned
slowly
off?
did it. I slowly did it, but even after I, fully jumped in,
Right.
I questioned myself for months. Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This is not consistent. This is hard. All those things. There were many third days there.
And at what point or what happened that let you let those thoughts go, if that did happen?
Yeah, I think it was just getting some deals signed and just
Right.
some the results, the money results started coming in. When you
Mhm.
start seeing the money that is associated with the effort, then you can say, wow, this is something. Like you actually have created a business. You
Right.
started from not having a business to having a business. Okay, now you look at your paycheck and you're like, I can sustain myself. I could feed myself off of this income. I could live off of this, support my family. I think that's the clues that start coming. And then you start to really step into the identity because it's happening in front of you.
Yes, exactly. So as you went out and took the actions, you got the results, and now the results further further ingrained in you or further confirmed and validated in you that you did the right thing and you're the right type of person, you're getting those results. And those grooves have to go deep enough that even if you go through a period in time, and this happens in all businesses, all people with businesses, period in time when the deals are not coming through, when things are not working, when things are going in the wrong direction, that you don't tuck your tail between your legs and run back to where you were before. So you still have to make sure that the identity is strong enough to withstand when it's challenging, not just when it's working.
Yes. It's you want to go on a spiritual journey, like become an entrepreneur.
I agree.
The other I'm writing a new book. It's called Before I Lead. It's going to come out hopefully in the fall. But I
Mm.
said something very powerful in this book, and this idea that leadership is spiritual. Like I think this is a spiritual journey, and you know, having to deal with the third day over and over again in your business is definitely a good way to challenge your identity.
Yes, absolutely, because you'll find out how committed you truly are, or you'll make that commitment that much stronger to where it's even harder to break with the next challenge.
Yeah. Well, and it starts like anything, like walking since March 24th or, running a business for 3 years. You start to become that person. You really do. But you
Right.
have to get past that hard part.
Yes, and then there'll be another hard part and another one and another one. So you just have to keep dealing with them over and over again. But you make yourself tougher and stronger every time you go through it. It's like lifting weights. Your muscles get stronger. So it's not that the weight got any lighter, but it's easier for you to deal with it.
Yeah. How hard was it for you to step into the identity that you have now and be so like relentless to doing the things that you need to do?
It wasn't as hard for me. It's something that happened gradually over time, and it was never anything that I consciously thought about. It's only when I am backtracking and looking back at it and explaining it, like in conversations like what we're having right now, that I'm even thinking about it consciously. So for me, it was coming out of college, going and playing a sport. I started putting content on the internet at the same time. Then I started, as I told you, talking about mindset and writing books and making courses and training programs. I was doing that while I was still playing. So each aspect of my life, I was already starting to do the new thing before I dropped the old thing. So it was a gradual transition for me. When I stopped playing basketball in 2015, I already had an audience, I had a brand, I had websites, I had sales funnels, I had courses, programs, books out. I was coaching people already. So it's not like I was starting from zero. So I slowly just dropped the basketball stuff and just built up more on the business stuff. And then over time, as I dealt with more people in the entrepreneurial and professional world, I learned more about their challenges and where they saw me as a solution. And of course, I kept increasing my knowledge base and skill sets. And then slowly over time, just gradually making adjustments based on what the market is showing me. So there was never a time, Julie, where I had to say to myself, okay, now I had to be this type of person. The only time it really was that for me that I was thinking about it was when I first stopped playing sports and I said, okay, I'm not an athlete anymore. I'm still going to work out every day, which I still do. But my main profession is not playing a sport anymore. It's business. So subconsciously, I would often, when faced with a challenge or something, I would default to the athletic response. Or how can I respond to this in the gym, on the court, on the field, on the track? Now I got to think about how do I respond to this using my brain, my skill of articulation, my business. So it's more of a cerebral thing than a physical thing.
Mm. This has been amazing. Tell our audience, like, what other tips or tricks do you have for people to help them through this?
Well, the most important thing people need is the structure, because when you have a clear structure in place, you don't even need a tip or a trick. You just put the structure in place, follow the structure, and it handles all of the above. So a structure is simply a set of instructions with corrections and consequence and execution enforcement all built in, that if you follow it, you have a reasonable expectation to get a certain outcome. This is why companies have processes and they have quotas. If you follow the process, then you're probably going to hit the quota 9 times out of 10. That's why you have the quota. They have an expectation based on the structure that they hand you. So if you follow a structure consistently, then the behavior that comes out of it is what people call discipline. And the behavior is discipline, not the person. A lot of people think discipline is a personality trait. It's not. It's a description of a behavior. When you're consistent in following the structure, then your behavior is disciplined, and people will call themselves disciplined. And most people understand that they need discipline, but what most people want, Julie, is confidence. Confidence is a byproduct of discipline. When you know you've done the work and you followed the structure and you showed up when you didn't feel like it and you did all the grunt work, then you have bought yourself a belief in your ability to do the thing, because you did literally do it, not just when it was convenient, but even when you didn't feel like it. That is what confidence is. And confidence also is not a personality trait. It is an energy that is embodied. Confidence is the absence of self-consciousness, is the absence of internal anxiety, is the absence of the stress that people feel when they believe they're not prepared or they're not enough or they are just insignificant or they can't do something. When all those are removed, the way a person carries themselves, it reads as what most of us call confidence. But understand, confidence is available to everyone, is not some inherent thing that some people have and some people don't have.
Oh, and confidence is received by doing the hard thing for a long period of time, overcoming.
Yes, well, confidence is uncovered by doing a hard thing for a long period of time, because now you don't have the stress or anxiety or the fear or those feelings of not being enough, because you know you did the work. When you know you've done the work, you don't have to constantly remind yourself of anything, and you don't have to tell anybody, and they can read it coming off of you because there's no blockage in front of you.
I love that. I hope everybody heard what he just said. I love that. I'm going to rewind that part. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Yeah. Mic drop.
Perfect.
So tell me what you're working on right now.
Right now, focus is on the execution reliability, which is related to structure, following that structure consistently. So a lot of individuals and especially organizations, their challenge is slowly over time, as I talked about entropy, humans slowly drift off of the execution that they're assigned. So in other words, there's a process, there's a system, but human beings, if no one's making them follow the system, they slowly start kind of doing things their own way, freelancing. So what we're working on is a process that makes sure that whatever system a company has in place is being executed on reliably and consistently, and any deviations are caught early when the deviations begin instead of later when they start showing up in the bottom line of your revenue. So that's the focus these days, is getting into the enterprise organizational level with the execution reliability.
Mm. How about do you do a lot of speaking with all of those books that you have?
Yes, it's not mostly about any individual book. It's really, my whole brand is called Work on Your Game. So the speaking will be, a lot of it will be around the stuff that we talked about in the first 80% of this conversation.
The third day.
Yeah. Third
It's
day is a
great.
popular framework. People like that one.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's
Yeah.
amazing. So where can my audience find out more about you and what you're doing?
Well, they can get a free copy of the third day. Can I tell them about that?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the book right here. If you're watching on video, the third day, the decision that separates the pros from the amateurs. So everything that we talked about, we offer you this book for free, physical copy. We just ask that you cover the shipping. Just go to thirddaybook.com. That's spelled out. The word thirddaybook.com. The book's free. Just cover the shipping. Once you do that, well, you'll be on our email list. I send out emails every single day. I send an email out, and then you'll be in my world. You can learn more about what we have going on.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to get the book.
Excellent.
I'm so
We'll ship it to
excited.
you.
This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Stay on Course podcast.
Of course, Julie. Thank you for sharing your platform. Thank you for the opportunity.